We are live. Welcome to Changing the Game. Changing the Game was created to share leadership insights and inspiration from female professionals who are out there making a difference in their industry. My name is Duren, and today I am joined by MaryAnn Patton. MaryAnn is the Chief Growth Officer in the financial services industry with a privately held firm. She spent her entire career, almost 3 decades, in the industry with various companies such as MetLife and MassMutual. Before that, MaryAnn was a collegiate tennis player at Chestnut Hill College, and she has brought her athlete mindset with her every step of the way in her career. Welcome, MaryAnn.
Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for giving me this invitation.
I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm so excited to chat with you today, MaryAnn. Your experience is amazing, and I can't wait to share your insights and knowledge with our listeners today, especially our transitioning athletes and veterans. So I'd love if you could set the stage for us, take us back to the beginning. What were you like growing up, and talk us through your journey to college and collegiate tennis?
Okay, love that. I actually use that question, some variation of that when I'm talking with candidates. Let's see, taking you back to the beginning. I am from a, typical family, suburban family, went through a lot of private school, and athletics were big in our household, having brothers, and my father actually played baseball through the Army. So he was forever a coach, very well known in our area as the guy that you wanted to coach your sons in baseball. And he really encouraged his daughters to be as competitive as his sons, which was kind of a nice thing back then, that he really pushed us into sports. So with that, I took up a love of tennis, just due to an uncle that actually started playing tennis with me. And I definitely had that athletic gene. And from there, it took off. That became kind of my thing. And my parents invested in me and invested in my passion, and they supported it. And that's where I spent a lot of my time, straight through high school. I remember high school going to train early in the morning before school started, which that was a little unusual. There weren't a lot of students who did that. So I realized at that time that I thought, oh, wow, I guess I am doing something a little unique and a little different here. And then from there, it just progressed.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned, your competitive drive being instilled in you from a young age, and taking that mindset through your training into your college background. You had also mentioned before we got on this call today that you had known that your collegiate tennis career, maybe the athletic piece wasn't going to last forever. So you put a big emphasis in your studies. Can you speak a little bit on that and how it kind of helped launch you into your professional career?
Sure, absolutely. So while going through my high school years in tennis and playing competitively outside of school and some circuit playing and things like that, I knew that there were going to be options for college that were starting to present themselves. But it also would have taken me way far away from home. And number two, I knew that by the time I got to high school, I had a clear vision that I probably wasn't going to be playing in Wimbledon, or the US Open or any of that. So I'm like, I put a little question mark in my head now. Really, is this really what's going to matter? I had the benefit of having some great women around me who were in medicine and, had other careers that were very successful, that actually were related to me, who went through my alma mater as well. So they were ahead of me as mentors professionally. And I think once I spoke with them, I really learned that there's a way that I can do both. And it was finding where would that best fit be for me academically, but also where I could still play tennis and compete all year long and compete even outside of school if I so wanted that to take place. Sadly, what happened to me on my journey somewhat was the summer between my junior year and my senior year of college, I actually was in a not so great car accident.
Oh.
Yeah. And that was a pivotal moment too, which I think sometimes we all have things that happen that are out of our control, which then, literally caused some injury, which laid me up for a while, which then took me out of my summer play. That's when the greatest epiphany came to, now what? Now it's that time to, on a very small scale, right? Now it's the time to say, okay, really, what am I going to do? What's next? I'm not going to be playing tennis this summer. So,
Right. Did that change your mindset knowing like your transition out of playing your sport came earlier than maybe you anticipated? I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into that. How did that really change your mindset? And did that help you decide, hey, I know maybe financial services is where I want to go next. I need to start leaning into that. Or what did that look like for you?
that just put a lot of questions in my head, Jordan. That just made life even more confusing, and just, really how to spend my time and what I wanted to do. So I did buckle down probably a little bit more in school because I was going into that senior year. And I think it also freed me up on some level. It gave me a little more room, time, made me see other opportunities. And some of those actually then took me into the, what am I going to do after college? And then I started to pursue graduate school and started to look at, what were my options professionally. And from that, which I think is always great, is that what happens to a lot of us is that somebody taps us on the shoulder. And I always say this is that whole idea, and I'm a big believer in how you should always pay things forward, is that I had a very good friend come to me to talk to me about the industry that I've grown to love. And because of her introduction was really why I found myself in the financial industry. My undergraduate degree was in psychology, which is also a good one, by the way.
Yes.
That's like, I think everybody should have a psychology major for a lot of reasons, but that's how that happened. So that's what really took my journey to the financial industry, not major, but a friend saying, hey, check this out. And I said, yes, let me see.
Yeah, I love that. It's really interesting that you mentioned the psychology piece. I work with a lot of candidates who say, "Well, I'm a psychology major. I don't have the business degree." I almost feel like having that psych major is some of the best business acumen development that you can get, like understanding people.
People make the world go round. People are our teammates. People are our bosses. People are our clients. If we can't work, and I think that's that whole athlete mindset too, right? So, understanding the value of working on a team and having teammates and being a leader, within your team, and understanding personality and skill sets. And I always say, I'm a big believer that I say here, and I've thought about this a lot, is that any organization is the sum of its parts, the weakest link to the strongest. So and think of a great coach, right? A great coach is constantly looking at that, right? To win that game. Where's your weakest link? Where do you need to make changes? And how do you get people to do their best? That takes psychology. And even for ourselves, how do we get up every day to be our best self? And when you play sports, I think that mindset of being an athlete, you're challenged with that every day. Every day you're figuring out, right? How do I win today? What do I do differently? How do I improve? How do I start? How do I keep my spot? That's life. The metaphor for life.
Yeah. It's the mindset that matters more than the background maybe that you came from or whatever you studied.
I think so. And I think that, there are certain careers and industries that are very specific. So of course, in that regard, there's certain requirements, but I think in general, having a foundation of maybe a liberal arts education or something like that isn't always so bad.
Yeah. You had also mentioned that mentors were really important to you when deciding what to do with your studies, but a mentor was also a key player for you when you were deciding what to do next after college. So can you speak a little bit more to the importance of mentors and how they've shown up for you throughout your career, and maybe some advice on how younger candidates who are just beginning their careers can find them?
Yeah. So I think sometimes, I don't know that there's any secret in the sauce as far as that goes, but um, I do believe mentors have always played a really big part in my life from where I landed professionally. Those first days, first days and weeks out of college, I feel like I was very blessed to have great leaders around me that, again, I use a lot of sports metaphors, but I think a great coach sees something in a player and says, wow, this could be a great addition. This could be the next great teammate for this club or this organization. And I think where they stops, I think there's only three. I have had the awesome opportunity to be, quote, identified really as somebody that a leader wanted to invest in, to where that they said, if I put effort and energy into her, I think she's going to help us get the results that we're looking for. And yeah, I was just blessed from day one to have those mentors. And coincidentally, they all were men. There's three men that I would absolutely highlight and say were totally instrumental in taking me each step to the next level. Kind of giving you that belief that you can do this or you can be better, and kind of pushing you. One in particular used to always say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, you need to grow, you need to move, go, be comfortable, embrace that. So I think that's great. And I think that when you're out there looking and going through the interviewing process and, talking to people, you need to really listen and see if there is that person there. I think training programs are so important today. But ask that question. Say, who could mentor me here? Do you have a mentorship program, both official and unofficial? What do you have available that for new talent coming into your organization outside of training programs? That to me is a really fair question. And I'm psyched if somebody asks me that, because I'll say, well, tell me more. What's the question behind the question? Why do you ask that? And I think that tells a lot about a culture, and that people are going to invest in you, in your career, in your development.
Yeah, MaryAnn, you made a really interesting point that I just kind of want to dig deeper into. You had mentioned that you had male colleagues or managers that really invested in you. And I think that's interesting. Like, we look at financial services, or for instance, sales, where we place a lot of our candidates who it's a male dominated space.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie. However, I think men play a really key factor in helping bring women into the conversation. And I just want to hear your thoughts on maybe what your experience was like working with these male mentors who have helped you in your career. And then what advice would you give women who are aspiring to be leaders in the space, who maybe don't see many people that look like them at this point? What advice would you give them?
So I would say, don't be afraid of that. That, to me, that's opportunity, right? If you can be someplace where that's okay. If not everybody looks like me, I'm good with that. Because that's an opportunity for you to stand out, right? That's an opportunity to be the unicorn and to make a difference. And then what I say, though, with that comes the challenge of, now it's up to you to make the difference, and then also to give that opportunity to somebody else. So I always think there's a responsibility that comes with everything that you get. It's that, what are you going to give in return? So does that help answer?
Yes, it definitely does. I just wanted to hear your perspective on it. I just have worked with some candidates who have in the past maybe expressed like, hey, I've just noticed this disparity here. Is there the opportunity for me in this space to excel long-term, whether that be in sales or financial services? And my answer is always yes. Like, there's so much opportunity there. And, I've had only male managers my entire career, and they've all been absolutely wonderful and done nothing but look at me for the value and ideas and work ethic that I bring to the table, not as a woman. So I think that's
important. Yeah, I think the more diverse and the more that we all embrace each other, that's where you get this, uniqueness of thought and creativity and innovation. And so be that. Listen, when I came into the industry 30 years ago, my God, I could be in a meeting of 100 people and there might be 2 or 3 of us. And sometimes was I a little nervous or felt maybe a little uncomfortable? Yeah, but you get over that. It's just, I think it's always putting yourself, in a place where you can make a difference and embrace that. And I think, having a gender difference or working on a team that's more dominated in one area or another, I think you can bring value. And it's all about having like bookends, right? The books to stand need bookends. So if we have this on one end and you're on the other end, what can we do to stabilize and make that work?
Yeah.
And that's how you should see it. And
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do, I don't think your success or where you are should have anything to do with anything other than your work product and who you are as a person. Your head and your heart leads to your success.
I love it. Amen, MaryAnn. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to know a little bit more too about your role as Chief Growth Officer. If you could demystify that title for some of our.
Oh, I know. It's a big title. It's a really big title.
What you do, what your key responsibilities are. What's that like?
Yeah, I think, I can narrow it really down. It's about helping to create growth and to create opportunities. And in business, especially in the financial business, a lot of that revolves around attracting the right talent and helping talent to land in the right seats, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I do is helping the firm to kind of navigate where we want to see growth and how do we help to execute to do that. And at the end of the day, that comes through people power. And that comes through in our world, in the financial world. That's our advisor landscape. That's the career of being a financial advisor, wealth manager, people who are working with clients day in and day out. And that's revenue generating. And I always think too, that advice that I think is important, that in a lot of cases, the closer you can be to helping a business to drive results and drive revenue, typically creates the greatest opportunities for wins, both professionally, career path, and financially. So if you can be a part of that on some level, whether you're directly involved in sales or you're helping to figure out ways that company on the front line can see growth and experience growth, I always think there's opportunity to make that something good.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And I honestly do that through other people. So if I have Jordan come and work with us because you're so awesome, then I'm like, okay, great. Because now I'm literally growing through your great success, Jordan. Right. So that's how, it's capitalism. It's how business goes.
That sounds fulfilling, knowing that you can make an impact on not only people's individual lives, but a direct impact on the business as well. I'm curious to know, when you are looking to candidates to join the organization, I'm sure it depends based on role, of course, that you're looking to hire in. But what are some key factors that you have seen make successful candidates over the years?
Yes. So I talk with people all day long, every day for probably the last 30 years. So, I think there's definitely what we would call our profiles of what success, how we want to attract talent and attract successful people. There are definitely some hallmark characteristics, right? And I think that's the athlete. And veterans too. And also, let me just say this, I am an Army mom. So
thank you for your service.
Proudest moment. So I think both the veteran and the athlete brings some very unique characteristics to the table, right? And I think it's that idea of mission first, team first, right? You sometimes put your personal identities second to the overarching, vision and goal and mission. And I think that those are qualities that not everybody really does understand or get. And until you're either part of a very competitive team or you go through the arduous career of being in the military forever long, that brings with it some really unique gifts and assets and attributes that are awesome to bring into the work world. And I think they are foundationally really great qualities. So the leadership, the drive, the self-sacrifice. I know that sounds like so cliche, but it's amazing when you're in leadership and you sit back and you look at, that 80-20 rule where they say, right, that 80% of results come from 20%. That's kind of true. And you're always looking to improve that 20% to hopefully make it 30% or 40% or 50%. You really don't want 80% of your results coming from 20% of your people power, right? So when you look at that 20%, who typically sits in that 20%? They're people who are competitive, people who are used to driving, going after their goals, right? Who can talk things like goal setting, who can talk about winning, who are willing to come in early and stay late, right? Think about all the training that you went through for sports, right, Jordan? All of what you did, all that extra stuff you did. You maybe ran extra, you trained extra in order to get that starting spot, or you knew a big game was coming up. So, you did some extra things. You watched your nutrition, you did this, you did that. Or if you're in the military, you left home, you risked all for a cause greater than self. That is priceless to have on a team in your work world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important to call out, yes, the qualities of people that show up early, they work hard, they stay late, but we all have off seasons, I think, or we all have bad games or bad moments.
We call it the valley.
Yeah, the valley. We all
in the valley.
Have the valley. And I think for anyone, it's difficult to be in the valley. I think it's especially tough for high achievers and high performers to be in the valley.
Yep.
What are some key characteristics too that you've seen from top performers when they're in that valley? Like how do they climb their way out?
Well, truth be told, I can go in the valley. I think the valley can show up at any given time.
Yeah.
So I think that competitive people will recognize the valley, number one. So I think we tend to kind of put the spotlight on self a lot, right? Because we're used to achieving. So when we feel as though we're not achieving, the alarms go off, whatever that gut check is, that where we're like, uh-oh, right? So I think that almost comes intuitively and naturally to the competitor. And I think which also then makes them another reason why those great characteristics, right? But I think, and we see it, I wouldn't say a lot, but we definitely see it with athletes, especially athletes who played professionally, who have to transition to that next step. And I think sometimes our identities, and what I'm seeing with the pro, is that their identity is so tied to their sport, or even that high level Division I athlete, right? Yeah. Where this is what you've known since age 5, right? This is who everybody knew you as locally in your community, in your high school, and then in your college. This is who filled the stands in the stadium. This is why you showed up on ESPN. This is why, right? Because this is who you were. This is it. And now all of a sudden, for that to almost disappear, I think there's like a grieving process. And we've definitely have seen it here with the professional athletes who've moved over. And some actually have a tough time kind of getting beyond it. And it takes them a little longer. And, having good supports around themselves really makes a difference, whether it's other teammates. I know that a lot of athletes, and even in my own family, that, your teammates, you stay in that group chat, you stay in those conversations, you have check-ins with each other. You talk about, I think that idea about passing the baton forward, that when you land in a company, you call your friends and say, hey, you need to check this out. I think having that natural network is really important, because there are definitely going to be times when that valley shows up. And look at our veterans.
Yeah.
Them too, making that big transition after a period of time of doing something day in and day out, where you have the people that are around you day in and day out, that you live with, that you eat with, that you travel with, that you sacrifice with, and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of empathy for that. And I think I have an understanding of it. I actually I always said that, boy, I'd love a day with the NCAA, because I'd love to share with them that I do believe there's a little bit of a void there, and helping the college athlete to transition. And that's why I actually, myself and, my colleague, we actually think that your organization does such a great job, Jordan, in the type of training that you offer the professional athlete in trying to make a career transition, and trying to learn about what those skills are that they want to brush up on. And there's nothing wrong in that. And there's nothing wrong in brushing up on some skills that maybe you think you need some extra support in, because you should just embrace it and see it as an opportunity. And then I think, to get out of a valley, whether it's sports or your professional career world, the best way to get out of it is to actually do something. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Creating, the most successful people have a to-do list. So I always know that when you feel as though you're in that valley, or you're in that area of confusion, seek clarity. By seeking clarity, it's asking questions and then calling yourself to go to an action.
Yep.
And every day taking those action steps, whether it's putting more resumes out, whether it's connecting with more people through your alumni association on LinkedIn, whether it's reaching out to your organization and saying, hey, what do you have? What's going on? Who can I interview with? Jordan, how would you advise? Taking action steps gets you out of the valley and brings clarity and control back into your existence.
I 100% agree, MaryAnn. I think you said something so important. It's to acknowledge that it is a process. It is a process when you're transitioning out of your sport or out of service, or when you're in the valley, but taking that action is so important. When we don't take that action, we start to just ruminate on our
everything looks not good.
Yeah.
But make tomorrow the day that you take the step, or take the step now, and I think that I literally, on a weekly basis, I level set, I look what worked the week before, what didn't work. Mondays, I take action, and that's action on day. That's it. And that's the day that I can change my dynamics. And the only way I can change it is to do it. We always used to laugh, like the whole Nike, right? Remember the Nike swoosh?
Yep.
Do it. Just do it. No, that's kind of good, right?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. I love it, MaryAnn. Thank you so much. I know we are at time, but I have one last question for you. Since this show is to highlight female leadership, and it was originally started to encourage more women to consider careers in sales, finance, financial service, just go out there and pursue your professional dreams. So I just would like to know, to wrap it up, what's one piece of advice you would give to women who are just starting out in their careers?
Work hard. Just work hard. Show up. To me, I always say that there's nothing that hard work does not solve. So, and that hard work usually doesn't make us bleed or make us sick or anything like that. It's just sometimes you just have to do the little bit of extra. But when you consistently do the little bit of extra, all those little bits add up. And all those little bit of extra things that you do, whether it's training, whether it's honing your craft, whether it's practicing a little more, what do they say? You do something 1,000 times and you become the expert. So just work. There's no escaping that. If you look at very successful people, they sacrificed, but they worked. Mm-hmm. That's it. And love what you do. Love
Yes.
what you do. And I think if I can add one more thing is that I would say with that is nothing is ever as black and white as it seems. Nothing is ever as good as it is, and nothing is ever as bad as it is. So get out of the world of black and white, try and exist in a little more gray, and understand that, you have the control and that you're going to work will make that difference, and just execute, go to work.
Amazing. Thank you so much, MaryAnn. That was awesome. Amazing way to end the show. Can I encourage anyone listening to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time. And I would love to hear from any female athletes if I can ever be of help. And I also say that I have about, I think, 10,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. So a lot of times when someone asks to connect with me, if they feel as though they need direction, I might have somebody that I'm connected to that I'd be happy to share that relationship and say, contact Jordan, she'll help you.
I love it. Yes, MaryAnn, so good. Thank you so much. Kelvin in the chat did say, go Army, beat Navy. I don't know if you saw that during the conversation.
Go Army. Go Army. I'm with you.
I love it. Thank you so much, MaryAnn, for your time. This was so wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I will see you all next week, same time, right here.
Thanks, Jordan. It's a pleasure.